Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk, the podcast exploring tech landscape, cloud hosting, and IT infrastructure. Whether you're a professional or new to tech, Leaseweb Tech Talk got you covered. Join us for latest trend, business cases, insightful interviews, and useful tips. Welcome everyone to Leaseweb Tech Talk. I'm your host Pamily, back with Shanook Jaansen. Today we are going to speak about how to configure CDN to your business. Shanook, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited. I think these are great questions. So.
Exactly. And especially this is very useful for our listeners, and that's what they want to hear from you. So to kick in the first question, please inform it to our listeners. If someone is starting with CDN for the first time, what is the first step they need to take to configure CDN to their business?
Well, first you would want to configure your DNS so that the actual traffic can be routed to the CDN. So that's the first thing that you want to do. Second, what you want to do is you need to configure your origin server because the content will be fetched from the origin. So if the POPs is fetching content to be distributed globally, it will fetch it from the origin first and have it cached in the POPs.
Okay. So Shanook, do the business need a technical team to set up the whole CDN?
You don't necessarily need a technical team, but you do need someone that is technically enough to set up a CDN.
Okay, got it, Shanook. So the next step must be to get those key parameters right. Can you explain a bit about TTL and caching?
So TTL stands for time to life. So it basically dedicates how long content stays in the cache before it's getting refreshed from the origin again. So for static content, you can have a longer TTL, but for content that changes frequently, you would want a shorter TTL. But for dynamic content, for example, you would not want to cache that at all. So with caching rules, it allows you to determine how long files get cached and for how long it gets cached. And it really gives you complete control over your files.
That totally makes sense. Obviously, security is a critical factor for business. How can the business set up the TLS?
So TLS is crucial for secure communication. So you want to make sure that your CDN is handling TLS properly. So ensuring that there's a secure connection between the CDN, between the user, and between your origin server. That is especially important when you're dealing with sensitive information, data that needs to be protected, like payment details, for example.
So once the basic setup is done, now how the business would set up their different content types?
So you would want to set up your caching in depending on the type of content that you're distributing. So for static content like images or style sheets, you can set a longer TTL, but for content that changes dynamically, that changes often, like website updates, for example, you want a shorter TTL so that it can refresh frequently. And I think you need to be smart with the type of content that you're distributing, what your caching and TTL configurations are.
Oh, that's great. Doesn't sound so difficult. Seems like it is very straightforward steps.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. And if you have some basic knowledge about a CDN, it will be very easy for you to set it up.
Okay.
So another common issue that customers have is that they don't set up a TLS certificate to protect the origin, leaving it very vulnerable for attacks going straight to your origin without checking the authentication of the request first. That's what a TLS certificate is doing.
Okay. So it seems like there shouldn't be much challenges the business will be facing when they're configuring CDN.
I don't think there should be, but you need to have some knowledge about how to do it. But otherwise, most CDN providers offer extensive guidelines or instructions on how to do it. Yes.
Okay. So Shanook, how to avoid these pitfalls, and what is your top tips for the beginners about the configuration?
So first, regularly monitor your CDN statistics. So most CDN providers offer a real-time dashboard of your performance of your CDN. So look at the cache hit ratio. That basically says how often your content is retrieved from the cache rather than going directly to your origin server. And based on that, you need to readjust your settings. Also make sure that you always reevaluate your security settings as your business is evolving and your traffic dynamics change, for example. So you always need to monitor your real-time traffic.
Thank you, Shanook, for sharing such valuable and insightful information with our listeners. And for listeners, stay tuned for our next episode where we are going to dive deep into CDN with Shanook.
Thank you.
We hope you found this episode insightful. For more content, like, share, and subscribe. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at leaseweb.com/newsletter.